Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this lovely Thursday afternoon. When the season is changing, things are getting a bit colder, but it is lovely to be here learning about our wellness. For those that are joining us for the first time, you are so welcome. Thank you for being up to date and checking in with your wellness. For those that have joined us previously, thank you for also continuing to be up to date with your wellness and coming back. You too are very welcome. My name is Cassandra Francis, and I am the founder as well as the clinic director and one of the psychotherapists at One Piece Therapy. And today we have our lovely intern, Sara Louie Tehrani, and she will be presenting on From Fear to Fulfillment, in particular, how value-based living reduces anxiety. So we're so excited because this is a very big topic, right? We often talk about anxiety, I'm anxious, I have anxiety, generalized anxiety, panic attacks. We have so much things that we're throwing out lately, but what about, the ways of grounding yourself, the ways of focusing, the ways of reducing this anxiety? So happy to get into this with you, Sara. However, for our viewers, the ones that are attending live, please feel free to use the chat function whenever you have a question, comment, or just want to share anything. Otherwise, please remain on mute and unmute yourself when appropriate. Those that are watching the recorded version, please feel free to leave your comments, your questions, your concerns in the description box below, and we'll be sure to connect with you on that. Okay. So without further ado, I will give it to you, Sara.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. Very welcome to our webinar today with the title of From Fear to Fulfillment. And I'm very glad I'm here and presenting this topic. It's so much timely for this day of living in this society. So much anxiety, there are so much fears. And actually, the motto is fulfillment isn't only about reducing the symptoms of anxiety or say less anxiety. And it's more about what we truly want. It's about those values, those virtues that we all already own it, but haven't yet fully actualized. And actually, I want to say that is we're going to build some understanding, but I'm going to a little offer techniques and ways to just a little see how we can practice it and get that skill and use it for maybe the next few days or a few weeks later on. And then you can send me an email message. Any feedback, I'll appreciate it about how does that go. Okay. My job is here to show you how fear can drown out our compass. And this compass is our values. And we're going to learn how to let values lead us. And we'll leave you with a simple plan for our next week. Okay. So we're going to think about, yes, as I said, fulfillment isn't only about less anxiety. It's more about what we truly want, the values we already have it, but haven't yet actualized. Also, I want to say about these values are not the shoulds, of course. It's what your heart agrees with. So these values so much related to the heart, more to the heart than to the brain system. And we're going to talk about it in a minute. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to start with this alarm system. So this is the threat system that we call alarm. It's funny, but it's good to know that everyone is born with this alarm. The job is to keep us safe, of course. And the alarm system, the threat system, spot the danger quickly and get our body ready to respond, of course. And when the alarm goes off, there's some physiological symptoms that happening. So you feel your heart may race, your breathing changes, like shallow breath, muscle tense, of course, and then attention narrows to scan for problems. This is what happening in the thoughts. So mind often jumps to what ifs, and you feel strong urges to avoid, control, just get some reassurance. And we want to let you know that that's not a weakness, of course, right? That's a normal survival response that the body shows to the situation. So it's a response, and it's very normal. Now, the alarm is very useful, of course, when there's real danger. But the problem is that when we get stuck in the modern life, it over-detects, right? It's like a smoke alarm that blurs for just, say, a burned toast. It's not a fire, it's a burnt toast, but the alarm goes off and blurs. And we get lots of alarms with no fire, and we're starting living smaller. And life shrinks. And that's the way we want to feel safe. There's another system that I want to talk about that my focus is on that. And that's the compass, or say the slower, wiser part that remembers your values and virtues, the kind of person you want to be, and the kind of life that you want to build. So the compass points toward things, say like honesty, caring, learning, say fairness, faith, service. Yeah, these are all those values and virtues that compass points towards it. And it helps us to choose actions that make the meaningful life and not just comfortable. So we're finding and searching meaning through that, not just feeling of our comfort zone or such and such. So here's the problem that is happening. When the alarm is loud, it draws out the compass, and fear takes the wheel, and life shrinks. And for today, our goal is to trying to not deleting the alarm. Of course, we need the alarm, but we want to learn how to be alarm aware and compass led. We want to let the compass sounds more and up and turn. So two things that we're doing to say plans that we're going to have and practice it is that turn down fear's control by stopping the habits that fit it. And those habits are quick relief behaviors. They're safety behaviors that we want to shrink them as much as possible. And then we want to turn up the compass by taking small value aligned steps, even if alarm is beeping a little. So we want to practice to draw on that compass. Well, alarm sounds there a bit, and we don't want to delete that. We need that. Sometimes we want to be proud of that. Sometimes we want to be honored that. We want to honor that. Okay, and then what's going to happen is that the brain learns this, that I can do something with anxiety, with some anxiety. So I can do it, right? I can. And the alarm quiets naturally, and then step by step, and then you feel more free, self-respecting, and of course, fulfilled.
Thank you, Sara. Before we move to the next slide, I just want to share that I appreciate the different wording that we're already introducing here, in terms of using the word system. Because the more you describe the difference between the alarm and the compass, I think of my sessions with clients, and we often use the voices, right? Instead of saying system, we say voice. And the voice tends to be, whether it's the compassionate voice, which is literally the longer word of compass, or the critical voice, which tends to be the alarm, right? And as you said, it's not about letting go of that alarm because it's there for a reason, but it's how are you allowing it to control your behaviors, right? And your life ultimately, because that's what it's shaped by when we're constantly letting the alarm system lead. So thank you for introducing new language to that.
Oh, no problem. It's nice. It's nice to know that there's synonymous and different ways of adopting this. Compass, we'll get to that. Compass is a direction, right? Voices coming from the directions, right? The directions creating those voices for every person. So very timely to add that. Thank you for sharing it. Now we getting to the next slide, which is what fear does to understanding, of course. So I a bit talked about it, touched it, but I want to talk more about when fear spikes, system flight, and say flight into survival mode. So that's the alarm doing its job. So we said that heart speeds up, breathing gets shallow, muscles brace to protect you. And then what's going to happen to the thoughts? Attention narrows. Your mind starts searching for problems like a spotlight that only looks for danger. And this is useful in real emergencies. But in everyday life, it means we're missing important cues, right? We missing kindness in someone's face, maybe a realistic option, or what our heart actually wants, right? Then comes the what ifs, as I said. The brain speeds through worst case scenarios. What if I mess up? What if I panic? You slide into all or nothing thinking. If it isn't perfect, it's a failure. And then, of course, mind reading mindset. So they think I'm incompetent. So these thoughts feel true because the alarm is loud. Unfortunately, not because evidence is there, right? Doesn't mean that evidence is there or evidence is good. It's just saying that alarm is beeping. So to feel better fast, we reach for quick relief behaviors. So avoiding the email, over checking, Googling, asking for reassurance. Relief is real, of course, right? But it teaches the brain avoidance equals to safety. And the alarm learns to ring more next time. And that's why life shrinks. So put together, fear distorts understanding. It narrows what we notice, pushes extreme interpretations, and favors short-term comfort over long-term meaning. Now, our compass, the values and virtues that tell us who we want to be, gets quiet in the noise. Now, we want to reframe it. Nothing is wrong with you again, right? The alarm is overprotecting you. Well, practice letting the alarm be present while turning up the compass. So choices reflect your values, not your fear. This is very important to think about and a little reflect that really we're making choices that reflects our value and then questioning it, whether this is the case, that not coming from the fears. Yeah, everyone agree with this, right? I bet. Now I want to talk about that compass. As I said, there are directions, values, virtues, directions. They're not tasks. They're not goals, right? They describe the quality of actions. Caring, truthful, fair, patient, brave, devoted, curious, faithful, service-oriented. You can live a virtue today. You can live your virtue every day, no matter what is the result, right? No matter it's a perfect day, is an ideal day. Now, goals are checkpoints that serve a value. Reading my child for 10 minutes serves the virtue, the value of caring parents, say. Send a clear email serves integrity at work. Goals can be finished, right? Values are ongoing. So goals can be finished, but values are ongoing, like the North Star. Now, feelings are signals. Feelings are like, say, weather. They matter, but they're not the steering wheel. Some days the weather is anxious. Sometimes we feel anxious. Values are ongoing. You can still choose a value-aligned step, right? When you're even anxious, when you're even angry. A key nuance here is that many of us carry inherited shits from families, from culture, from faith, from religion. Some are beautiful, some don't fit anymore. Respectfully ask, does my heart choose this? A chosen value feels like alignment, not performance anxiety. This is so sweet. Do you agree with this? There's no performance anxiety for being aligned with the value that we have in heart, right? We're trying our best. Little tiny steps.
I wanted to comment on just that aspect of values being ongoing, right? Where goals are fixed. I love how you put that because it's true. And I was thinking, as we're talking about anxiety, because it's often fear-based, there's a lot of rush and worries within that as well. And I was thinking, what if the values change, right? I think that's also important to acknowledge too, as much as they typically don't often change. Like what our values are is typically our core. However, the more we discover ourselves, the more we understand ourselves, can therefore cause this refinement process of our values. And I'm thinking, well, what does that mean when it comes to anxiety, right? Because change can be, oh my gosh, I don't know what my core is anymore, right? And I'm fearful that I don't know where I'm going in life. What would you say about that, Sara? Like when your values are being refined and that process of soothing the anxiety?
Yeah, it's very critical and it's very central to say reducing the anxiety. If I want to just go and run research, we see that this approach is so much useful and helpful for the clients. I love the way you use the word core. This core that everyone is born with is untouchable. Any trauma, any bitter experience, nothing can touch it and change it, right? And that's the anchor. That's the light. That's the compass that people draw on. And it's going to change, going to bring change. And the most important thing is that the client get this awareness of that compass being existed in his heart and get born with it, is something that it's inherited. So this awareness is going to help them, right, to draw on. And then we're going to teach them how to draw on them step by step. And what is natural to the client. Client will direct me how they want to see it. What does it look like for them to have that compass, right?
Thank you, Sara. And I think that that's also important because although we are born typically with these things, sometimes we don't know what exists within us, right? So I think that's also a beautiful opening for those that are unsure or unclear about what their values are, their identity, their core, maybe Sara is accepting new clients. So please feel free to reach out to us at One Piece Therapy, and we're happy to schedule an appointment for you to deepen this discussion. But I did see a couple of people in our live audience go on camera or maybe unmute themselves. If you did want to chime in, please feel free. Please feel free. If not, we can continue.
Hello. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I have some idea maybe. These are our abstractions. Everything is information, basic information about the topic. But can you go to examples, real examples, and something happens to us? I can bring lots of examples from my life. Like, I don't know, 40 years ago, there was a war going on in my country, bombing, explosions, and many other things. And I had my daughter, a baby, and we would always be like stressed, fearful, and anxiety was up to here. So how do you explain all these informations in an example like this?
Good question, Mr. Afshar. Very welcome. Thank you for this. Yes, we need to observe at the concepts in a very practical way. Now, in our next slides, we're going to learn how to use step-by-step strategies or techniques to draw on the values. But then as you said, in terms of clarification of the concept in a practical way, as you mentioned, we all have these experience of dealing with anxiety and fear. And then we also had this fateful moments. We all had those fates in our hearts with those values that we drew on in order to combat that. But I just want to give a particular example from the Iranians, Baha'i Iranians in Iran, that they face persecution, long-going persecutions. They are kept in prisons, their stuff confiscated. Many things happened to them, right? It was not fair. But they drew on the compass. That compass was the fear, was the faith, was the patience, was the love of what they really believe, love in what they really see, and the vision as part of that compass, as well as the attitudes that they work a lot to put into practice. They drew on them to combat the anxiety. So we see that like 0% of depression, suicidal thoughts and behaviors in the Baha'i community in Iran, though they were so much facing persecution and imprisonment. But this is just one example, how people drew on this compass to control the emotions, right? They drew on their hearts rather than let the brain system and fears take the willing steer.
Thank you, Sara. And before, I know we're on the next slide now, but I think another example to broaden or generalize, I guess, this perspective you're talking about is within therapy as well, right? Some people start the journey with a lot of fear of what can come up in the healing process, right? A lot of worries. They're aware of their traumas, but they haven't touched on their past traumas. So they're worried about feeling overwhelmed. And what can help get through that journey of healing is that value of, at the end of it, you would feel more healed, right? Or lighter or more content, whatever your goals are. I find that helps clients get through the different pains, the growing pains of therapy, is just understanding what that desired outcome is, and that being something to hold on to.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for saying that. So this slide is about 3 quick tests spotting their real values, as you see. And the first one is invisible choice test. It's so easy. You're going to ask yourself, would I still choose this if no one noticed or congratulated me? So real values stand on their own, of course. They don't rely on likes, grades, approval. And this is a good invisible choice test that you can adopt on it to see if you have a real value, or if this is the value that your heart desires, right? And then the second one, identity integrity test, that you're going to ask yourself, does this action express the kind of person I want to be, right? This is kind of alignment, genuine alignment of you with what you really believe. And if the action fits your identity, then it strengthens, of course, the self-respect, going to affect your level of self-esteem. We're not going to get into those terms or concepts or words. We're just going over it very quickly. And then it's 1% act test. I love this. I think that this is just one big part of that fulfillment, is that you asking, what is that 2 to 10 minutes version I could do now or today? Isn't it amazing? We're allowing ourselves to put that into action for just 2 to 5 minutes of our best, and see how does it look like. And then this is the values, as I said, are directions. You can enact them immediately, right? There is no term for it. There is no perfect time for it. Not someday ideal, right? Tiny steps beat perfect plans. So that's what I'm thinking. And this slide, it's telling us. Now, a quick caution about this is that if the answer feels heavy, which should, or performance anxiety, the ones that society is giving us, or other things, other portals, of course, social portals or a background. So revise the wording until your heart agrees. And for example, instead of I should work hard, try say I want to learn with integrity, for example. Then find a 1% act of that. That's being performance. Okay. Next slide, how it shows up across clients. Exactly. So, see, these are some of those examples that I think that you guys probably hear yourself in one or more of them. These are the stories, but I want to tell you, these are all same Lou, different clothing. And I can do one perfectionist student, because I know that some people here are students as well. So the value is growth. Now the alarm, the nervous system, saying that, okay, A+ or you're a failure. And then the body reacts physiologically, the body tenses, attention narrows, the thoughts, and then away move, which is those quick relief behaviors, as procrastination for quick relief. The compass step is a 10-minute, say what? Ugly first draft. And then that behavioral activation and exposure in miniature leads it to work, right? You approach, not avoid, and then learning. I can start without being ready. That's the way compass will lead us to that activation behaviorally. Okay? We have this people-pleasing parent. I wanted to newcomer professional, so much related to our context. So the value is, so this is for new, and the context of newcomer professional, the value is contribution. The alarm whispers, your English isn't perfect, don't send it. So the away move is over preparing forever. You want to just read and read and write and write. And so the compass step is the 3-line small, like say 3-line email, or adding like say one concrete CV bullet. So we see that this action creates data, and then confidence, of course, follows. Now, before we learning techniques, I can show you a simple bridge from your story to action, how we put it into action, right? So one first question, and maybe say one question that we need to have in mind is, who do I want to be in this moment? That's the question. When the fear spikes us, hidden emotionally, who do I want to be in this moment? That's your value. I want to be kind. I want to be honest. I want to be brave, fair, devoted, curious, service-minded. Now let your compass answer, not the alarm. That's the key. Right? Let the compass answer. And then there are 2 rules following that to make it real. Rule 1, go tiny and today. So pick a step that takes 2 to 10 minutes and that you could do on a regular day, not on a perfect day. You can do every day. Just do 2 to 5 minutes of your best. And then rule 2 is repeat kindly. You're retraining an alarm. It's retraining the brain and nervous system. And do you know why we do it in a kind manner? So this is not a performance anxiety. This is not a, I want to do that 2 to 5 minutes of my best in a perfect way. This is brain training, right? No self-attack. No taking tests, right? It's beautiful.
And oh, sorry, Sarah, did I interrupt?
No,
okay.
No.
I think it's also important to highlight, I like synonyms, because you never know what word is going to stick with someone's consciousness, right? So I find with these 2 rules, and even from your previous slides, you know, where we're talking about mindfulness, right? Being mindful of how you speak to yourself, being mindful of what voice is speaking, being mindful of how you're navigating your life. Are you being authentic? Are you aligned, right, with either yourself or a higher power that you want to learn more about? Like, how mindful are you in your day-to-day? And I find these are great practical ways to check in, right? They really break down 2 to 10 minutes, right? Check in with yourself, which can make a whole different direction in life. And that could be hard to believe, right? Sometimes we feel like when we're so lost in our journey that it takes like a drastic shift, where sometimes it's just a mindful check-in and that repetition of kind language to help be like, okay, let's just turn our heads a bit, right? And I think it's important, as you highlighted, to say kind, because even with teachers, for example, going to that perfectionist and that student, you know, are you more likely to listen to the teacher that is encouraging, right? It's like, okay, you didn't get an A+ today, but this is how you can do it for next time, right? Or the one that says, well, yeah, you didn't get it, you're a failure. That's kind of harsh, but you know, that is that you're a failure. I don't know why you're taking this course. There's no point, you should drop this course. You know, which one are you more likely to listen to based on your values of you're in that schooling, you're in that program for a reason. So who's going to help you to get to that goal?
Serge, can I add something? First of all, hi everyone. Actually, I'm very, like, I agree 100% with the word that you put it as a kind, because I learned from my life, as long as you're happy with improvement, you're going to be okay and you're going to improve. But in the minute that you put perfect in your mind, you're not going to happy with anything, because you're just looking for perfectionism. And perfectionism is something that you are going to gain it like gradually through your improvement. day by day. And when perfectionism is coming to your mind, you're going to criticize yourself every day, every minute, and you're not going to feel comfortable. So based on my experience, as long as we are improving day by day, we are going to gain perfectionism. But if we want to start with perfect things, never we are going to gain perfectionism. Just I want to add this, and I'm really happy with the word that you bring it up, like kind. Yeah, this is the word that we really needed.
Thank you, Azadijun. You're right on the point. And then we have another slide, which is focusing on perfectionism. So much related to what we now dealing and delving in. Thanks. Yeah, so for our next slide, which you're going to see this one, the reveal. Yeah, so our next slides will show how to apply it. So there are 3 R's that I'm going to talk about very quickly and briefly. So one is the reveal. So means that what matters, to bring what matters up, and then realign into our tiny steps, and finally retrain the learn through gentle repetition. So for this reveal, what matters here? So first we reveal. So notice the primary feeling underneath the search. So there are primary feelings, and there's secondary feelings. Secondary feelings are the feelings that they're at the surface, and there are deep beneath that those feelings and emotions that we need to deal and delve in. So maybe you may feel angry, and then there's a hurt underneath. You fear under irritation. So this is the time that you need to name a chosen value your heart agrees with. So kindness, honesty, courage, service, and then ask yourself, why do I want to be in this? Okay. And then finally, imagine the tiniest visible version of that, something you could do in 2 to 10 minutes, right? Yeah. See, that's the question beside the cup of coffee. Are we focused on what really matters, right? And then we go into this realign, the second R, which is turn value into one tiny step. Yes. So at the you label your next move at the choice point, and then toward the value or away from the discomfort, you choose one small action you can do today, say 2 to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, match to your energy, and then use WOOP. No, WOOP, W-O-O-P, stands for wish. So wish it, and then think about outcome, what's the obstacle, and then plan. Then add an if-then cues. For example, if it's 7:30 after dishes, then I text a kind check-in, for example. Tiny and today, of course, as we said, beats perfect someday. Next R, yes, is the retrain, your inner alarm. So finally, we retrain it. We approach small, and when safe, drop the crutches that feed anxiety. So that crutch could be constant checking, reassurance, avoidance, anything. So we stay inside a window of tolerance, right? Challenge, not overwhelm, and use a kind of kind tone with ourselves, as Adijun loves it. Then we repeat it. So repetition teaches the brain, I can do this with some anxiety. That's how fierce control shrinks and fulfillment grows.
So we do have a question. Someone asked if you can explain what WOOP stands for.
Of course. So W stands for wish. So first we want to have what we want, right? What's important to us. So we decide that, what matters to us. And then O stands for outcome. So what would be the result? What we imagining? What we expecting, right? Trying to think about the brain's expectations. And then obstacle. What obstacle is on our way? And of course, plan. Take our next step. It's quick, it's brief, and we can draw on that in our 2 to 10 minutes perfect version of us, or say best version of us. So these are all stands for some stuff. I try to use these words to just more likely to get fixed in your brains and thoughts. Of course, here's how the pieces snap together. So the 3 R's, as we talk about, gives us the map. So we draw on the 3 R's to find our way, and then, for example, say reveal what matters, realign to small toward move, and then retrain the alarm by repeating it. Now, trap, move, shift from trap to track is a tool we use inside realign and retrain. Now, how are we using it? What does it mean? So most of us get caught in trap. Trap stands for trigger, T trigger, and then when it happens, we have a response, which stands for R. So our thoughts is affecting, our emotions are affecting. And then A and P stands for avoidance pattern. So we slide into an avoidance pattern for quick relief, right? Life shrinks and the alarm learns to ring more. Now we switch to track by keeping the same trigger and responses, but choosing an alternative coping. So A and C in track stands for alternative coping. That is value align, takes 2 to 10 minutes of you, and the mini sequences: spot the trigger and response, name the value your heart agrees with. So after you spotting that trigger, what is triggering you? What is making you feel vulnerable or emotionally responding? And then spot the response. How do I feel? How does it feel in the body? And then name the value your heart agrees with, and then choose one small approach, right? And when it's safe, drop one crutch, like checking or reassurance. So slowly, step by step, you're going to drop those crutches. And those are avoidance behaviors, right? Those are quick relief behaviors. And then repeat kindly as we talk at the same keyword time. And that's how the alarm learns new predictions while the compass leads. That's the important thing. It seems easy when we listen to it. It seems like so familiar, like we've known this for a long time. But then reflecting on it and trying to put it into practice is another story.
Yes, I find there's a lot of things that are easier said than done.
Yeah.
Especially, when it comes to changing our life, right? It's such it can be overwhelming, but I do appreciate just the literal words that you're using, right? The acronym or the word of trap, right? There's only so far you can go when you're trapped in a certain parameter. While you're tracking, it implies momentum, right? And that momentum does take many steps. So I love this picture you selected as well, Sarah. Yeah, like this
very
is
consciously.
I'm sure. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. And yes, and this picture also is chosen for a purpose. Now, right after we map a trap, we add this emotion skill. So the value action is doable. Then we want to think here. I want to put this into a practical way and say it. Like, first, notice and name. This is the this is a continuing slide of the previous one. So first, we notice and name the feeling. Here's anxiety, anger, and then second, as you see on the picture, we allowing to surf on it, right? So track the sensations as they rise and fall, right? Use a physiological sigh. Say 2 small inhales, 1 long exhale, a couple of times, for example. So we are not intending to fix the feelings, right? We are making room for it. And that's I put the surfacing picture and image on this slide, because we don't want to resist that, right? We don't want to resist the fear. We don't want to resist the emotions. We want to accept it in a way that we go with it, right? We're making room for it. And then we move to track. Take 1 tiny value aligned step, 2 to 10 minutes. And then finally reflect. What helped me stay? And which value did I live? right? Keep it trauma informed. So that means that we keep it in the window of tolerance, right? We want to challenge it in a way that not getting overwhelmed, right? If it spikes, shrink the step, ground, pause, try to do it again later. This is how we're doing it.
And I'm even using this image again. I love images, especially when it's very aligned. Because even this image of trying to surf, trying to ride the wave, right? As you said, instead of maybe not going in the ocean at all or not going on the board at all out of fear, imagine going back to the title, right? From fear to fulfillment, how fulfilling it is to finally get on the board and stabilize yourself as you go through the waves. Like that is such an empowering feeling. I've tried many times physically, and surfing is not my thing, but I can only imagine how fulfilling it would be to finally stand on that board, right? And just experience the waves of the ocean, which also reflects in this context, the waves of life, right? So very beautiful.
Thank you, Cassandra, for your beautiful comments. Thank you. Yes, we're getting to this fulfillment now, the concept of fulfillment. So across cultures. So we all know that fulfillment isn't a mood, right? It's more like life aligned with your values, say. And the key is that we notice it first in behavior. So short, steady actions that actually match who you want to be. And say like replying honestly, reading with your child, attending the class. These are all those little small actions of feeling fulfilled. So relationships then feel warmer because you pair kindness with clear boundaries, right? Everything changes when values come in. And then inside your identity becomes coherent, of course. I'm the kind of person who shows up. And many psychological problems and issues and challenges arising from this absence of coherence between what person loves, likes, the heart says, and how they're doing, how they're presenting, how they're running their life, how do their actions presenting. Nervous system settles faster. Anxiety still visits, but it doesn't run the schedule, right? And for many, there's a spiritual community expression, of course, small acts of service, simple rituals, moments of awe in nature or art. These are all those moments that representing the fulfillment and being accomplished or getting enacted. Fulfillment isn't one size fits all, of course. Culture, family shape which value feels central and how they're expressed, and what matters is that your choices are chosen. Your heart agrees, and they're lived in tiny, respectable way and steps, right?
Yes, and even before we move on to, I think because we don't have a lot of time, I think a great question for our audience to reflect on is, what does fulfillment mean to you?
Yeah.
Especially as it comes to what culture you're from, what parts of your culture you want to bring forth or integrate in this understanding and this life perspective. So yeah, please give yourself space, give yourself time to think about what fulfillment means to you.
And then the question that what value your hearts really desire, what value your hearts wanted, and you see that it's not applicable or it doesn't fit your understanding and your brain and thinking anymore. This is another question too, right? How can we align the heart and the brain, right? Have it both aligned together. And this is something that I want to bring your attention to: excellence versus perfectionism. So from a Baha'i-inspired lens, perfectionism is, say, fear wearing a virtue costume. Isn't it funny? Fear wearing a virtue costume. Performance for approval or nothing standards, as I said, in a harsh inner critic. So it breeds avoidance. If I can't do it perfectly, I won't start. That's all about perfectionism. Now, excellence, doing things with care and craftsmanship, is different. It's wholehearted. So it's not because of getting praise from others. It's humble effort. So it's not looking for perfection and perfect step, plus learning and consistency. So excellence says, I will offer my best today, then learn and try again tomorrow. That stance is approach-oriented, which teaches the alarm you can act with some anxiety and worry. Now, connect this to the twofold moral purpose, which Baha'i community is so much focusing on. We are here to develop our capacities, like patience, truthfulness, skills, and to contribute to the betterment of family, work, and community. So these two moral purposes, they're working at the same time. When action is framed as a service, for example, attention shifts from self-judgment to usefulness, right? Then fear softens, because the point isn't looking flawless, right? It's being faithful to your values and helpful to others. Now, a simple cue, I'm going to ask, what's the 1% act of excellence I can do today that benefits someone? This is the question for you. So everyone, I invite to a little reflect on a bit how anxiety drops, self-esteem rises. Yes. So here's how excellence plus values-based action changes the system. Each small approach creates new learning. And what is that learning? The bad thing you predict usually doesn't happen. So the brain updates and the alarm quiets. By gently reducing safety behaviors like those constant check-in, reassurance, the warrior loop, all those are going to help that this loop loses the fuel. And then regulation practices, supportive people, rituals, they all increasing the capacity, right? Keeping you in your window of tolerance, of course, not getting overwhelmed. So action would be possible. Psychologically, you're meeting basic needs. And what are those? The first one is autonomy. You feel autonomous, right? I chose this. And then competence, of course, I can do small stuff. I can do small, hard thing. And then relatedness, of course, this helps someone. It helps somebody, which stabilizes motivation. Right. Finally, every tiny value to act is evidence. I keep my word to myself. And that integrity builds self-respect. And self-esteem rises. I want to talk about this as well. And then, yes, it's not linear. It's very important. So just a review. Things bump up. Keep the 3 R's, reveal what matters, realign to one tiny steps, and then retrain by repeating kindly, adjust your deal, and then shrink the step by 50%, add support, like a family, text a body, ask for listening ear. Always I'm calling my friends and talking to them in that concept. So slow the pace so you can stay inside your window of tolerance. I want to I want you to reflect these on which value virtue felt most alive tonight for you. Today for you, it doesn't matter. So which value virtue felt most alive? And then maybe another question would be, where did my alarm get loud? That's the most important question. Where I'm getting heightened. What are those triggers? Maybe you identify it, notice it, not judge it, think about it. And then what 1% act of excellence, not perfection, fits today, right? And then think about TRAP and TRAC this week, like trigger, response, value 2 to 10 minute step, and then bring a cue and do it, right? And then you can think about also support as well, the rituals, your faith, anything that gives you feeling of safety and haven. Friends, I want to thank you so much for attending this webinar. I'm not sure how does it look like for you, how it's going to help you, how did it feel to be part of this? But I'm very thankful and grateful for all being here. And thank you, Cassandra, for giving me this opportunity to share it with my loved ones.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sara. This was a beautiful webinar, very insightful, a lot of great questions. Even in our comments, in our chat, people are also expressing their gratitude and usefulness. So thank you so much. For those that are interested in continuing this conversation, especially as Sara mentioned, decreasing your anxiety so your self-esteem can increase, right? And what, of course, you can assume when we're aligned with ourselves, when we understand ourselves, it's very hard for that fear to overcome our perspective. Right. However, it can also be challenging to navigate everything we're saying all by ourselves. So again, here's our information. You can contact us via phone or on our website through our email if you would like to speak more about your mental health journey with Sara. Otherwise, thank you all again for attending. Please stay tuned as we have a lot of our educational webinars on a monthly basis, so you can always subscribe and stay tuned on your wellness.
Yeah.
Have a beautiful Thursday, everyone.
Lovely.
Thank you so much.
Everyone.